In this video, we'll be looking at threats and how different type of threats can impact our network and impact our work environment. Now, yes, we are going to be looking at some logical threats. We're also going to be looking at some physical threats. There's also some types of threats that we just can't control that are totally out of our hands. So let's start off with those. Acts of God or acts of nature. Hurricane, floods, tornadoes. We can't do anything about those. All we can do is try to be prepared for those. So there was a video earlier on risk, and that's what we're looking at here. These type of threats, we can't do anything about them. We have to look at risk management. We have to look at what we can do just to embrace those and what we can do to help prevent those. So with acts of God, we can, with hurricanes, tornadoes, things along those lines, we have insurance. We be sure that we do off-site backups of our data. We be sure that we have a contingency plan in place, so that way when these happen, we are prepared for them. Now, with some other events that we can look at, we can be looking at human error. So we can be looking at, I hit the wrong button on the computer and I erase a file. We can be looking at non-human errors where a mouse chews through a network cable, or we can be looking at or a lightning strike. So actually a lightning strike would fit under acts of nature. So all these things can come into play here. Now with human error, that is something we got to look at. Notice that under human error, there is deliberate and there is accidental. With that, we got to take into consideration that not all threats are external to our environment. We might have an employee that's mad at us, and so that's where that deliberate act comes into play. They are purposely trying to sabotage our network, or they're purposely trying to destroy data because maybe they're getting ready to leave to a different company and they want to get a good job over there, or maybe they're just mad at us and they don't want us to succeed on something. Now with human error, accidental, like I already mentioned, just accidentally hitting the wrong keystroke and accidentally deleting something. So that could also be something that we look at there. With under human threats, we're also looking at theft. Who all has access to things? Where all will they find information? Will they take it? Will they assume they have the right to take it? Physical threats we could also be looking at. With a physical threat, we're looking at floods. We're looking at sprinkler systems within our facility. We're looking at equipment breaking down. That could also be an issue with physical security of what we have. Logical security, how are we encrypting the data? Where are we storing the data? Is it really secure from theft? So that also plays into to our threats. Logical is an issue on how to secure it. You got to have it out there where people can get to it and use it, but you also want to be sure it's secure. So we got to figure out, am I storing it encrypted? Am I storing it unencrypted? Whenever I start transmitting that information, is it being transmitted in plain text, or is it staying encrypted when I'm actually transmitting that information? So that's also something we have to look at with logical security. I'm going to go back to a previous video where I mentioned Boyd, bring your own device. By bringing your own device, what data are people storing on their personal laptops, on their personal phones or tablets, whatever they're connecting to that device? So that's where you have to look at logical security. What do we do with that? Now with records that are stored on personal devices, is that device secure? What if they leave it at Starbucks and it gets stolen? Well, what if I have account records on there? Then that's a security risk. That's a security vulnerability where somebody can actually go in and find that client data. So you have to be careful about that. There's just so many issues we got to take in consideration with different types of threats. So I've already mentioned a good number of these, but we have lost or stolen data. It's like at Starbucks, data loss, we leaked it. Compromised or stolen data, somebody hacked into our network, or it kind of goes in with internal or unauthorized access. Social engineering, somebody might call and just kind of manipulate their way in as far as making you think they need the data and you accidentally give them information you shouldn't be giving them. Hacking a network, okay, that's definitely an issue. You got to be sure you have your security in place so somebody is not going to hack into your network. So you can see just lots of issues we got to look at there. Now, another thing we have to look at is within our devices, people like to click on different links they get through Facebook, through email. So we get viruses, we get worms, we get Trojans. These are all threats that we have to encounter with our network. Now, obviously you need to have some sort of virus protection on your network to help safeguard against these, but how do these different ones work differently? You need to know a little bit of the differences between a Trojan, between a virus and a worm. How do they react differently? A Trojan is just like a back door. Think about your history, and you heard about the Trojans and how they had this horse and they were hiding in it. They brought it into their city walls, and they were able to come out at nighttime and attack. Okay, that's what a Trojan is doing. It's a backdoor. It's something that you've downloaded and you've allowed access to on your computer. So now they can have access to your network because of that backdoor. A virus may be something you got from an email. You clicked on a link in an email, and now it's on your machine. A worm, same way. It could be brought in through an email or through something along those lines, but it can also just worm its way through your network. That's the key difference between a virus and a worm. You need to know the difference between a virus and a worm. A worm self-propagates. It can just move itself. It worms its way through your network. A virus requires some sort of user interaction. So you've opened that link in the email. You've double-clicked on that file. So that can also be an issue there. Now, within viruses, we can have logical, like a logic bomb. With a logic bomb, it requires something to happen, a triggering event. I double-clicked on the file, so that was a trigger, a certain date, Valentine's virus on February the 14th. Okay, so that virus triggers on that date. So it has a logic bomb has a specific operation or a specific event that triggers that. You can also have hoax viruses. A hoax virus is something that's not really real. An email that I got a long time ago saying, go into my system registry on a Windows-based machine and look for the specific file that had this little teddy bear as the icon and delete it. Okay, that was not a real virus. That was a hoax virus where that email is trying to get me to delete that file. If you deleted that file, if I remember correctly, when you rebooted your machine, it wouldn't reboot. It would essentially be dead, and you'd have to reinstall on there. So that's a hoax virus. So there's different things that we can encounter as far as the way it impacts our network. Malware, spyware, things that we download, things like those that can impact us also. There's different security threats that are going on. We can see based off of this chart here. We have denial of service, we have data theft, remote access, being sure the network is secure there because a threat could be somebody hacking into our network to get it. So you got to be careful about that. What type of threat can spyware prove on your machine? Look at your mobile devices. I have a flashlight app on my telephone. Most of y'all probably have that also on your smartphone. What all does it have access to? Now, obviously a camera, your flashlight app would have to have access to your camera to turn the flash on, but why would it need to have access to your contact list or to some of your other call history events and things like that? Consider that whenever you're downloading apps. Look to see what they need access to. A background app, a screensaver app, why does it need to have access to your contacts? Take all that in consideration when you're downloading. Sometimes the biggest threat is our own ignorance on devices. We don't know, we don't pay attention to what we're doing and what we're downloading. So take time to look at it and to do a little bit of research. Just don't do it because somebody says it. Do some research. The internet is a vast information. So take time, just be leery of what you're doing, be aware of what you're doing, and that's going to help minimize some of your threats and how you interact with things. Hope you found this video helpful. Hope you have a great day.